The airport buzzed with its usual chaos, travelers rushing in every direction, announcements booming through the loudspeakers, blending into the ambient hum of engines and footsteps. But in one chilling moment, all that motion halted. A loud crack echoed through the air, sharp and jarring as a gunshot. It wasn't a weapon, it was the cane of an elderly woman, knocked violently from her hand, clattering across the cold tile floor. Gasps filled the terminal as the woman, startled and trembling, instinctively raised her hand to shield herself. Her pale blue eyes widened in surprise and confusion. Towering over her stood a flight attendant whose name badge gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights, Caroline Whitmore. Her lips curled with disdain, her eyes radiating thinly veiled contempt. "I told you to step aside," Caroline snapped, her voice slicing through the air. "First class is not for people like you." A heavy silence fell across the terminal. Passengers froze, their gazes shifting between Caroline and the elderly woman, unsure whether to intervene. Uneasy murmurs spread like ripples in a pond, but no one stepped forward. The elderly woman, Meredith Winslow, did not flinch. With calm dignity, she bent down, retrieved her cane, and straightened herself with deliberate grace. Her eyes steady, unblinking, locked onto Caroline's. The strength in Meredith's gaze wasn't fueled by anger. It was something far more unsettling, a quiet, formidable resolve. "You've just made a serious mistake in your career," Meredith said, her soft voice carrying weight that made those nearby shudder. The bustling gate at JFK International Airport felt like a battleground where tempers flared as high as the jets waiting outside. Yet amidst the frenzy, Evelyn Crawford, a black woman in her 60s with salt and pepper hair and a refined emerald outfit, moved with serene composure. Her polished wooden cane, intricately carved, clicked softly against the tile with every step. Evelyn's presence was commanding, though she neither demanded attention nor sought it. She moved toward the first-class gate with quiet assurance. But in the sea of motion, a young blonde flight attendant named Julia Monroe, eyes down on her manifest, crossed Evelyn's path too abruptly. Their collision was minor, but Evelyn's cane nearly slipped from her grasp. Julia's blue eyes snapped up, scanning Evelyn head to toe, her expression hardening. "Please step aside," she said, her tone icy. "This area is for first-class passengers only." Evelyn met the statement with stillness, her gaze cool and razor-sharp. "I'm well aware of where I'm standing," she replied, her voice steady but firm. The young attendant's irritation flared. Her eyes narrowed as she judged Evelyn's simple appearance, unable to reconcile it with the wealth and status the first-class area represented in her mind. The standoff drew attention. Passengers paused, suitcases held still, pretending to adjust their scarves or scroll through their phones while they watched the escalating tension. Evelyn did not flinch. Julia, on the other hand, bristled at the quiet challenge in the older woman's composure. What neither of them knew was how this small confrontation would spiral into a defining moment, one that would expose deep-seated biases, ignite a media firestorm, and change the course of their lives and the airline forever. Julia's frustration boiled over. When Evelyn tried to show her boarding pass, Julia's hand shot out to grab it, but Evelyn instinctively pulled away. Angered, Julia lashed out, slapping at Evelyn's hand, the one holding her treasured cane. The sound echoed across the boarding area. The cane hit the ground with a sharp crack. The terminal fell silent. Evelyn stared down at the fallen cane, then slowly raised her eyes to Julia, her expression unreadable but chilling. The young attendant's posture stiffened, and in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear, she doubled down. "I've told you clearly, ma'am. This area is strictly for first-class passengers. People like you don't belong here." The cruelty of her words stunned the crowd. Whispers grew louder, eyes widened, and phones began recording. But still, no one spoke up. Evelyn, unmoved by the humiliation, bent to pick up her cane. Then, with piercing calm, she looked directly at Julia. "You've just made the biggest mistake of your life, young lady." Julia's smirk faltered for the first time. "Are you threatening me?" she hissed, masking her growing unease with bravado. "I don't need to threaten anyone," Evelyn replied softly. "But actions have consequences. Remember that." The boarding gate had become a theater of scrutiny. Every move watched, every word dissected. The quiet dignity in Evelyn's posture only made Julia's aggression seem more grotesque. "If you really have a valid ticket," Julia spat, "show it. Otherwise, step aside." Evelyn, without haste, pulled out her first-class ticket from a sleek leather holder and extended it toward Julia. Julia's eyes scanned the ticket. "Seat 1A. Name, Evelyn Crawford." The name barely registered with her in that moment, but the ticket's authenticity was undeniable. Yet Julia clung to her hostility. "Anyone can forge a ticket," she snapped. The crowd gasped. Evelyn said nothing, her silence louder than any rebuke. Watching from the VIP lounge was Sebastian Hartley, a young businessman who had noticed Evelyn's grace hours before. From the moment the confrontation began, he had sensed Julia was making a grave mistake. Now, as the situation unraveled, he quietly began recording. Julia's anger reached its peak. In a reckless burst of spite, she snatched the ticket from Evelyn's hand and tore it into shreds before the eyes of horrified onlookers. The shredded ticket pieces drifted to the ground like snowflakes, and with them fell Julia Monroe's last shred of professionalism. The boarding area exploded into murmurs, outrage bubbling just beneath the surface. From across the terminal, the sharp sound of approaching footsteps cut through the chaos. Richard Montgomery, the airline's senior manager, arrived, his face set in stern disapproval. The moment he saw Evelyn and the scraps of the torn ticket, his expression changed. To everyone's astonishment, Richard bowed his head slightly toward Evelyn. "Mrs. Crawford," he said respectfully, "please accept my sincerest apologies. This incident is unacceptable." The crowd held its breath. Julia's eyes widened, confusion and fear dawning too late. Richard turned toward her, his voice dropping into icy authority. "Miss Monroe, do you understand what you've done? You've just insulted the chairwoman and CEO of this airline, the very person who founded and built the company you work for." The color drained from Julia's face. She swayed where she stood, gripping the torn fragments of the ticket as though they could shield her from the weight of her mistake. Passengers' whispers grew louder. Videos streamed online within minutes, the scandal unfolding in real time. But Evelyn remained poised. She did not gloat. She did not demand vengeance. She simply stood, radiating the quiet strength that had unnerved Julia from the start. And when she finally spoke, her words struck deeper than any punishment. "There are lessons that can only be learned through humility," Evelyn said, her eyes steady on Julia. "I hope for your sake this becomes one of them." The story, however, did not end there. Julia's misconduct would spark not only disciplinary action but a sweeping internal review within the airline, pushed forward by Evelyn herself, who chose to use the moment not as retribution but as a catalyst for real change. And in the weeks that followed, as the world watched the fallout, Evelyn's message echoed far beyond the terminal, that respect, dignity, and equality are not privileges, they are rights, and no uniform or title can grant the authority to deny them.